Hello, fifth graders. So today we're going to be starting a new topic. It's topic 4.1, multiplying by powers of 10. Okay, now we know how to multiply whole numbers by powers of 10, but today we're going to be multiplying decimals by powers of 10. So when you multiply a decimal by a power of 10, are you going to get a bigger number as your product or a smaller number as your product? And when I say powers of 10, I mean like 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Are you going to get a bigger or a smaller number? You're going to get a bigger number. So make sure you now have your new interactive notebook. Make sure you type that in your new interactive notebook page. Okay, so these two factors, 4 and 239 thousandths times 1,000, okay, we know we're going to get a bigger number. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, I like to use these little templates to help me. Okay, so I'm going to fill in the number that I'm multiplying a power of 10 by. So the 4 would go in the ones, the 2 would go in the tenths, and you fill in the rest. So it looks like this because the decimal point needs to be right there. Okay, now if I'm multiplying this number by 1,000, I'm going to get a bigger number. So I'm going to move this decimal. I'm going to shift this decimal through the place values towards the bigger numbers. Okay, now how many times am I going to shift this number over? Well, if you look over here, it says look at the total number of zeros to tell you how many times to shift the number. So again, I'm going to shift 4 and 239 thousandths towards the bigger numbers because I'm multiplying by 1,000. And how many zeros does 1,000 have? It has 3 zeros. So I'm going to shift this number right here through the place values towards the bigger numbers because I'm going to get a bigger number, and I'm going to shift it 3 times. So my first shift will be just shifting all of the numbers one place value over. My second shift will be doing the same thing, just shifting the whole thing over. And my third shift, I'll pick a different color. Let's do green. Is that. So I shifted it once, twice, 3 times, okay, because there are 3 zeros. So my final answer, multiplying 4 and 239 thousandths times 1,000, my answer is 4,239 right here. Okay, so this chart is really helpful in helping you understand and move that decimal. All right, so that's for if we're multiplying by powers of 10, we're going to get a bigger number, so we move it towards the bigger numbers. Well, what happens if instead of multiplying by a power of 10, we're multiplying by a decimal less than 1, such as 1/10, 1/100th, 1/1000th, etc. Okay, if you're multiplying by one of these decimals, are you going to get a bigger or a smaller answer as your product? You're going to get a smaller answer as your product. Okay, so instead of shifting the whole entire number through the place values towards the bigger numbers, since you are multiplying by a number less than 1, a decimal less than 1, you're going to shift it towards the smaller numbers, okay? Because you're getting a smaller answer. All right, so for this one, I think on your paper, actually what it says, I changed it and it's actually 875, okay? So you're doing 875 times 1/10,000th, which is a very tiny number. So you're going to move the decimal, you're going to move this 875 through the place values towards the smaller numbers. So first we're going to fill in 875 in our grid. The 8 is in the hundreds, the 7's in the tens, and the 5 is in the ones. 875. Now, before we moved it over depending on how many zeros there were. Okay? But in this case, we don't count the zeros. We count the decimal places. Okay? So look at the total number of decimal places to tell how many times to shift the number. So in 1/10,000th, how many decimal places do we have? We have 4 decimal places. So we're going to shift 875 4 times through the place values towards the smaller numbers because we know we're getting a smaller number as our answer. Okay, so we're going to shift it once, which looks like this. We're going to shift it twice, which looks like this. We're going to shift it 3 times, which looks like this. And we're going to shift it one more time, and you're actually running out of room on this. And I kind of filled that in there. Now, the decimal places here, again, if we don't have anything filled in, we can put zeros in these spots, okay? So our final answer, if we multiply 875 times 1/10,000th, we end up getting 875 10,000ths, okay? So that is our answer, and that is a very, very tiny number compared to 875 because we multiplied by a decimal less than 1. If we multiply by a tiny number, we're going to get a tiny number. If we multiply by a big number, we're going to get a bigger number, okay? So multiplying by a big number, we get a big number. Multiplying by a small number, we get a smaller number, okay? And use these templates to help you locate. And it's just like kind of like a diagonal line through all of them. You're just shifting it over one place value at a time. Okay, so now we're going to do some examples, and I'm going to have you guys do some on your own, then we're going to go over these. So let's look at this first example. We have 2 and 64 hundredths times 1,000th. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to shift that number, okay, over which direction? Okay, we're multiplying. Are we multiplying by a big number or a small number? We're multiplying by a small number. So we know we're going to shift 2 and 64 hundredths towards the smaller numbers, okay, because smaller numbers go that way. Smaller number place values go to the right. Bigger number place values go to the left. And how many times are we going to shift 2 and 64 hundredths? Well, there's 3 place values, so we're going to shift it 3 times to the right. So do that right now and see what you get as your answer. So let's see, if I put 2 and 64 hundredths, okay, I shift it once, I shift it twice, I shift it 3 times, and I'm kind of running out of room over here. All right. Now, again, any place, like you see all these places here that are blank, you can fill in with zeros. So my answer, 2 and 64 hundredths times 1,000th, is this. A really, really, really tiny number. That's tenths, hundredths, thousands, 10,000ths, 100,000ths. So it's 264 100,000ths, okay? Because we're multiplying by a number that is less than 1, a tiny number. So we're going to get an even tinier product. Now, the next one, it's 43 and 71 hundredths times 100. So are we multiplying by a bigger number or a smaller number? We're multiplying by a bigger number. So we're going to shift this number towards the bigger place values, which is this way. And how many times are we going to shift 43 and 71 hundredths through our place values? We're going to shift it twice because there are 2 zeros. So I'm going to do it in green. I'll write 43 and 71 hundredths. You can use the same exact template. And then we're going to shift it once. And twice. And this is our answer, okay? So our answer is 4,371. We got a bigger number than what we started with because we multiplied by a bigger power of 10, okay? So again, It depends what you're multiplying by with these decimals. If you're multiplying by a number that's less than 1, you're going to get a very tiny number. So you shift towards the smaller place values. If you're multiplying by a power of 10, which is bigger, you're going to get a bigger product. So you're going to shift your number towards the bigger place values. All right? So attached to this Edpuzzle is going to be a Google form where you're going to practice multiplying by powers of 10 and by powers of 10 that are less than 1. All right? And you do not have a graph or a chart table like this, but you can easily just create your own, okay, to help you shift those place values over one direction or over the other. All right? So take your time. Let me know if you have any questions and complete that Google form in order to get credit for your homework. Have a wonderful day, 5th grade. Bye.